Hey everybody, this is Sean Riley with Riley Real Estate and MassHomesale.com with this week's Q&A Saturday video. This week we're going to talk about should I hold an open house? So if you're looking to sell your home, sometimes you will hold what's called an open house. I'm going to assume everybody knows what that is, but just to be clear, that is when you basically have your house open to the public so they can go through and take a look at it, and hopefully will be the person who will eventually buy it. If you have a real estate agent, they'll advertise it in their ways on the MLS and through their other contacts. You also will see, old school ads in the newspapers, obviously online ads, bulletin boards, signs, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, basically, you are opening up your house for basically anybody to walk through and look at. So, maybe back a long time ago, this was could be a much more effective way of marketing. But really, I've never met any professional who said that it was a critical tool to selling a house, and for the most part, they don't even say that it's particularly useful. I would tend to agree with that too. So there is a couple different reasons why they're not that great. First is obviously you aren't screening anybody beforehand. If you are selling with a real estate agent and they have other real estate agents bringing clients there, typically those people have at least been somewhat vetted on their ability and desire to buy a home, and usually know a little bit about your house going in, so they have some reason to think that they will be interested in your house. At an open house, many people will just see it the day of. Like I said, if you have signs and balloons and all that kind of stuff, people might just stop in and be curious. People might have seen your advertisement and they may have looked up some more specifics of your house, or they might just be somewhat generally interested in buying a house or buying something in that area and will come and look. And a lot of times you're just going to have people who like to look at other people's houses. You could have your neighbors, the nosy neighbors going around and just kind of want to look and see what you did with everything. But basically the biggest thing is, even if you have a lot of foot traffic, it's often a lot of people who aren't even looking to buy a house, and then a lot of people who are not necessarily interested or able to buy your house. So it's just not a particularly effective tool. Not useless, but not that effective. So beyond that, there's obviously some issues and concerns you might have to deal with as well. First, fairly obvious one is that if you have a lot of strangers just walking through your house, there is definitely the potential of things getting broken or stolen. You actually don't hear that many stories of that type of thing happening, but it's certainly something to be in the back of your mind, and it certainly does happen. Now, obviously, if you're being smart about it, you're going to put any valuables and money and stuff like that, stuff that's easily breakable, away, so it's less likely to happen. But it's hard to do all that, and obviously that brings up another issue of you obviously have to make sure the place is clean and well set up and perfectly ready for people to go through, and you have to be prepared for people to be looking through closets and medicine cabinets and under the sink and through all different rooms, even ones that you might not generally keep as clean, like the guest room or something like that. So that's another concern. Now, if you are going the traditional route and having just general showings of your place, you're going to have a lot of those issues too, obviously keeping it clean and well presentable and all that kind of stuff. Though you might have less issue with the people kind of going through things, because they'll generally have their agent with, or they should always have their agent with them as well. So you might be less likely to have people out of curiosity going through your drawers and stuff like that. But obviously that can still happen. So why do people recommend you have open houses? Mostly it's if you are working with a real estate agent, and they like to have them sometimes because it's a good source of buyer leads. So, as we said, there might be a lot of people who aren't even interested in buying houses, but then there's going to be a lot of other people who actually truly are, but they might not really be in the market for your house. Obviously, no real estate agent is going to steer somebody away from buying the house that they're working at an open house, especially if they're not working with another agent, because then they'll get both ends of the commission. But that doesn't happen a lot. But even with the people who are interested in buying houses, but what they do is they get their name and contact information, they get in touch with them afterwards, and they try to convert them into a buyer-client lead. There's nothing wrong with this. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. That is what real estate agents do. Like, they work with buyers and they work with sellers. So if they have buyer clients looking at other places that don't work for you, that's not a problem. But you should understand that they are probably getting a much bigger benefit out of your open house than you are going to. Unless it's the rare occasion where the actual buyer comes from the open house. For the most part, they are going to get a lot more out of it than you will. Excuse me. Now, it's not that there's no situations where it's useful. So there's one very clear marketing strategy where open houses do seem to be pretty effective, and I think that they could be a very good idea. That is if you have a property that you expect to be very popular and don't think there's going to be any difficulty selling it. So in one of those situations, you might list it, or even if you're selling it yourself, but put it out there as being for sale sometime during the week, and say you're not going to have any showings until after the open house that weekend. So when you do that, there are people who are looking and investigating and truly want to look at your house and are interested in buying it who can't get there yet. But they know when they can, so they'll try to plan so they can go to the open house, and they'll do their research beforehand, and it gets people kind of anxious and excited. And if you have a good turnout, you kind of get that feeding frenzy. So in those situations, you do often have multiple people who go to the open house who become interested in it and will write an offer, and sometimes they'll write you really good offers, like might even be more than you're asking for, with good conditions and all that kind of stuff. And then you actually have the luxury of picking which ones you like the best because you have multiple offers at the same time. That is definitely a real situation that comes up. I think it doesn't come up quite as much as people hope it does. I've definitely seen people use that kind of strategy where they talk about no showings to the open house and all offers will be reviewed that coming Monday, and they give the dates, and it was on the list. You look at the listing and those dates were like 2 months ago. So that doesn't always work, but in the situations where it is truly the right type of property for that, it is a good strategy. But outside of that, I really don't see where it's particularly useful. Like I said, it's not useless. I mean, you could still have randomly somebody come in, they're going to be the one that's going to buy it. So if you want to have an open house and you don't think it's a big burden for you, that's certainly, it's still worth doing. If like I said, if it's not going to be a big hassle for you. If it is a big hassle, then you might want to think about if it's really worth it for you. So that's sort of the lowdown on open houses. One of the less effective marketing tools out there to sell a house. Again, slightly more useful if you're doing it for sale by owner, just because it's harder to generally for you to set up the individual showings and stuff like that. You have more people trying to get in touch with you directly, and might just be stopping by when they see the house because they aren't working with an agent or something like that. But for the most part, it's not that useful. Does have some other issues around it. Can be pretty good for the agents, but less so for the clients for the most part. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions, as always, put them below. If you have any questions that you'd like to see in a future video, as always, you can leave a comment, fill out a form on the website, put some on our Facebook page, our Twitter account, or send an email to info@masshomesale.com. Until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.